Hey everybody, welcome to the next SciCraft episode. So today I want to continue with the shifting floor mob farm that I want to build on the survival server, which you have to design first. So we started that in the last episode, and in between the episodes I have done some work, but it's actually 10 days since I recorded the last episode, so my memory isn't the freshest anymore. But let's see what I did actually there. So I remember that I was working on a design which was a bit wider, so we had a lot of issues with the trapdoors closing because of a 1.12 bug that would have been fixed in 1.13. And one solution for the problem with the trapdoors closing was then to use a lot of redstone in between the soul sand, so this would have actually worked. But yeah, I ran into some issues as well. So I made two designs for the shifting floors. So the first design I want to show was the one here on the top, which had the advantage that it doesn't use any tile entities like hoppers that would cause a bit of static lag. So instead we make a clock by pushing an observer against another observer, which makes a little observer clock, and then we power this dropper here, take out the output of another observer, and then power the piston here to shift the floors back and forth. And since we have different delays here in between, the pistons can only extend after a certain interval. And the top design here has the advantage that the floors only shift back and forth twice, but it has a disadvantage that it has a really low reaction time, as you can see here. There we go, shifts the floors back and forth just twice. And yeah, this is quite good for lag friendliness, but it makes the mob farm quite slow. So the design here at the bottom still uses the hoppers to make the clock. So just to freshen up the memory, we need the clock in case mobs would get stuck here, and we need to shift the floors more often. That's why we need to make a clock as well. If new mobs spawned directly after the last mob got glitched through, you would need to have the clock so it keeps activating. Alright, so the bottom design uses tile entities again, the hoppers, and it has the advantage that it reacts quite quickly, but the floors are activated multiple times, or moved over in total at least 4 times. So you can see here, this will create a bit of lag, because moving the blocks is actually the main lag causing factor in the shifting floor farm. Alright, then I kept working on the design and came up with this here. So we push an observer on top of this observer in order to make the clock, like this. And then we just take an output from this observer that points downwards with another observer. So first I was trying with a different design. We have the observer pointing into a block, but that always had the issue that it was not tileable or stackable every 3 blocks, because then the other observer from the bottom would power the block. That's why I just take the output here from this observer with another observer. And this is a really good design. So if we put the creeper in here, actually we have this copied a few times. You can see that's a different design. Wait, where's the good one? Let's get rid of the creeper. I think that's a good one. Yep. So it has a quite good reaction time, and it shifts the floor 3 times in total. So this is at least a nice compromise. In case the creeper spawns on a soul sand, then it only shifts the floors twice. So it's even better. It shifts 3 times when the creeper spawns on a normal block, and if it's on a soul sand, then just twice. And also for some reason, we no longer have that bug with the trapdoors closing on the end. So I have no idea why this actually happens. We found out by accident. Methods was messing around a little bit as well with the design. And then we just checked again if we could maybe reduce the number of redstone blocks which we used here. And we found out that for some reason this design doesn't have the trapdoor bug. Maybe we can show it again what happens with this design if you don't have the redstone blocks. And you could also watch the episode, or the last episode. And I just want to show it again. So now it also doesn't happen. What the? Okay, so it was definitely an issue. I mean, we worked on this on last episode, and for some reason the trapdoors kept closing on me on the outside. I hope this is not some kind of a directional, locational issue, and it would also actually work if we build up the complete farm. Yeah, anyway, so it seems like we don't have this issue with the closing trapdoors anymore, and I probably want to go with this design here. Also try to mess around a little bit and change the timings here and there, but it seems like having a repeater on 2 ticks on one side and here having one on 3 ticks on the other side should be one of the best solutions. So when it comes to effort and size of this design and lag friendliness, it should be quite good. I mean, we don't have any hoppers anymore, so no static lag from the tile entities. It's probably bit expensive with all the observers, but we can easily afford it on the server. And there has been some development again that improved the design. So Oreo was also messing around, and it, in most cases already helps if somebody else, I don't know, contributes some ideas. But at some point I was thinking maybe we can make this a bit faster if we maybe add an observer here that would shift over the floor immediately. Didn't work out as intended, but by accident we actually improved the shifting floor design, because no matter where the mob spawns, the shifting floor only shifts twice. You can see shifts on the soul sand, shifts twice, and if it spawns on the normal block also shifts twice, because the normal piston here is a bit blocked, or actually this piston here is blocked by this one extending additionally from the observer. So it's even better. So still, the reaction time is still quite decent. I think it's about 4, 6, 8 or 12 game ticks, or 0.6 seconds, and it only shifts twice, so pretty much good design. I'm quite content with this one here. Alright, so I would say I'll go to a single player world where we can build up the first mock-up of the farm with MC Edit. So we got a fresh creative world. I build up the farm. Not sure about the size yet, but I thought this should be definitely enough. Alright, now let's try this out. It said mob spawning to true. Alright, so it seems quite promising at first, but we'll run into issues. I already tried this before. As you can see, get a ton of mobs. I think the size is already quite good, but unfortunately we will run into trouble, which is very unfortunate. Alright, just takes a while. You can already see there's some mobs now remaining on the spawning layers. So the first issue was this creeper that got stuck on the trapdoors, but it's probably negligible since they would get suffocated by the blocks above. But here on the other side we can see that we have an issue here. And the issue is that some of those repeaters would stay on. I have some suspicion why it happens. I'm quite sure those server clocks run on 6 game ticks instead of 4. So I haven't tested that hypothesis yet, but I can easily check that by adding a few repeaters here, and then just make a screenshot to lag the game a bit and see. Yeah, we can already see it. It's definitely 6 ticks. Yeah, there's always 1 on, 2 off. Alright, so this has probably something to do with the way we built this, and when the observer is getting pushed over. So it probably happens that a mob spawns on the slice next to the already existing mob, and also activates the other side again, or somehow with the timing something goes wrong, and basically we activate the observer while it's sending a pulse in the first place. So maybe we can demonstrate this on the side here. There's actually 2 ways you can push an observer. So the first way is to push the whole clock, and then you get a 6 game tick clock. Okay, so if you do this, then we always get the 6 game tick clock. Let's hook it up again. Okay, let's screenshot so you can see 1 on, 2 off. But you can also do it differently. So if you just have the observer here at the bottom and only activate this piston here, then you push the observer in the off state, and then you get the fast pulsing clock. You can see it's 1 on, 1 off. Alright, so basically we push the observer while it's on, then we get the slower clock, and then this is the whole problem here. Yeah, that's actually a big problem because it breaks the whole concept. So what I could do is maybe try to mess with the repeater timings, but I doubt there is any configuration that would work with either a 4 ticks or 6 game tick clock. I really don't know what to do, so try to come up with something. I rebuilt the farm a little bit, not really in a structured way, just messing around a little bit, hoping to find something by accident, but it seems like the observer version is just flawed, and I might make this concept work with the tile entities instead, but I also ran into another bug. And yeah, here's the issue. So you can see this shifts back and forth all the time, but there's really no entity at all that would activate the tripwire. And this is a bug I actually know about. This also affected another mob farm I was working on almost 1.5 years ago together with JL. So we made a faster mob farm than this one, which also used string in order to detect the mobs. And we also had that issue there. So for some reason the game doesn't process the mobs correctly, and then basically have some ghost entities that keep the tripwire activated. The only way to fix this is really to leave the game and log back in, so we can do that maybe. There we go, it stops. And this bug probably will break the whole concept, because we run into this all the time if you use some kind of a tripwire detection based system, and kind of breaks the concept entirely. So I'm thinking if we should maybe not do it at all, since this bug is just devastating to the concept, and I'm not sure what we could do in order to make this work without doing something like moving the player around to unload chunks and reload again. But then we also have the issues that we would unload pistons while they extend or retract, which breaks them, so there's a lot of issues with that. Might be best idea just to abandon this concept and go back to the normal shifting based farm, which is activated by a clock. So I went back to the old clock based shifting floor design. Instead of detecting the mobs and only shift floors with mobs, we just activate all the shifting floors every about 2.5 seconds. So I included a little clock in here. If you track the arrows, you can see how this makes a clock. And yeah, so we still need to do some testing, because I actually want to make a perimeter for this farm. Perimeters aren't that much work anymore, so I would assume it probably takes me 10 or 15 hours to make one. And the advantage of making a perimeter is that we can build the farm a lot lower, where the spawning rate is a lot higher, and that means we need fewer spawning spaces, and this would also create less lag, since we don't need to activate as many shifting floors with potential spawning spaces. Alright, so at the moment we're trying to figure out how large we have to make the farm, and in order to do so I'm using carpet mod. So there's 2 important commands in order to track the statistics. The first one is the count command. So here we can track the amount of items we're getting, so 43,000. But what is even more important is the spawn tracking command, because this is an important tool in order to find out how large you need to make a farm. So the important statistic here is the this number here, monsters per tick. So it says we have 35 monsters per tick, or that's the basically just means we have 35 monsters on average in the world. And the mob cap for single player is 70. So that means we could have twice as much. But reaching 70 is not really possible, since it always takes a while until new mobs can spawn once another mob is killed. So yeah, depending on how far you want to go with the lag, a value between, let's say, 55 to 67 or 65 is something we should go for. So I would say, there's even another important statistic, which is the amount of lag. So we have MSPT 7.5, 7 flat, or even less. So I would say we could easily make this farm twice as large. So at the moment it's 30 by 30 in 2 layers. If you would add 2 layers on top, then we have an issue, since we need to go into the next subchunk. So at the moment the roof is at Y50, 45. Yeah, so we could go 1 block higher. So adding more layers on top won't work, and is also not the best solution, since it takes more time to kill the mobs then, since they have to go through all of the layers. So it's 30 by 30 at the moment. We could maybe increase it to 40 by 40 in order to roughly double the size. Or I'm actually thinking about just making it longer, so making it 30 by 60 would also work. So we make a perimeter anyway. This would be probably the easiest solution, just to make it 30 by 60. So I doubled the size of the farm. It's now 30 by 60. Let's go through the stats. So first of all, let's check the lag situation, which is still quite good. So it's around 10 to 12. Sometimes the little lag spike where it goes even higher, like now. Kind of probably a lot of mobs spawn, but most of the time, yeah, we're sitting around 10 to 12. So it's totally fine. We're just using about 20% of the available server resources, so that's quite good. Then, yeah, lag factor could also be the minecarts. So I'm now having the minecart unloading basically in the shorter sides. If you would rotate the whole minecart unloading, then we would use fewer minecarts, and would also reduce the amount of building effort. But I'm quite certain that it would create more lag, because we also have the items which cause a little bit of lag. So if we do the tick entities command, we can check how much lag is caused by the minecarts at the moment and how much the items contribute. And here you can see it, minecart in overworld 1.7 and items 2.2. That value also fluctuates. When I did a little test earlier, then it was significantly lower. Maybe it's also, now you can see item in the overworld 0.7 and minecart in the overworld 0.5. So it fluctuates a little bit. Maybe we should just do a longer test. But yeah, as you can see, the items cause more lag than the minecarts. Now, if you would rotate the minecart unloading by 90 degrees and the minecarts would travel longer distance, then we would probably have more items in the world which cause more lag. So it's probably better we have more minecarts that pick up the items quicker than the other way around. So I'm thinking about keeping it this way. Alright, now let's check the spawn tracking. And here's the important value. So we had 35 before, we doubled the amount of spawning spaces, and obviously we're not at 70, since now some of the time the mob cap would actually be filled. This is actually also displayed by the carpet mod. That's the next number. So 11.4% of the time the mob cap is filled. So this is a good value if you want to go for, if you want to make your farm as fast as possible. You should maybe aim for maybe a 30% or even up to 50 or 60% if you really want to push it as much as possible. But if you also have some, if you have building effort and lag friendliness in mind, then 11 is really good value. So when it comes to making your mob farm, this is a good value. Alright, let's also check the counter, because that's actually the important stat, what we want. Get about 70,000 items per hour, which is pretty good. And I even forgot one thing. I didn't make this a desert biome world. So we still have a lot of mobs spawning, zombie spawning. We could probably even get more drops if we would change this to a desert biome, because the skeletons drop more items than the zombies on average. Alright, so that's something I still want to do. And probably also need to make the farm a bit larger again in order to make up for the failed spawning attempts for the husks. Alright, now we're in a desert biome. I made the farm larger again. It's now 87 by 30 approximately. I also activate the shifting floors more often, so just reduced by a small amount instead of every 2.4 seconds, every 2.1 seconds now. Just to squeeze out a few more drops out of it, which was successful. So I already did the test over half an hour, and there we go. We get 82,000 drops per hour on average. This is really good for shifting floor design. Obviously, you can make a much faster farm, but this is still, not too much effort, I would say. Still acceptable, I guess. And we don't want to make the most efficient mob farm ever, just something to have for now in order to get enough bones. Also, I just saw an enderman spawning there. This could actually happen if the shifting floors are pushed over, because here there's enough vertical space for endermen to spawn. Not sure if you should prevent it somehow. I don't think it's necessary. It should be okay. So we get 82,000 drops per hour. Lag is also quite good. I did a tick warp earlier, which was completed with 67 TPS or 15 MSPT on average. That's also what the display shows most of the time, so 12 to 17, or sometimes a bit higher if you get some spikes. So it's pretty good. You can build this farm without worrying about the lag. Alright, what else? Spawn tracking. Let's also check that. So we got 61.8 mobs per tick on average. Pretty good. And the mob cap is filled 12.8% of the time. So perfect numbers. I think the size of the farm is just perfect. Alright, so I guess we got a working mob farm. I'm still a bit sad that the detection-based system with the string doesn't work, but maybe at some point those bugs will be fixed and it will become a viable option. There's definitely a way to make it work. We're still having the issues with the observer, with the detection-based farm, but there's probably a workaround for that, but not for that string issue. So we could either try to fix it ourselves or just maybe build this farm instead. It's fine. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the mob farm designing episode. Maybe something different for a change. I went through the whole process, what I usually do. Hope you found it interesting. In the next one, we'll probably start making the perimeter and even build up the farm. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good time. Bye bye.